All right. Our goal for today is for all of you to take away a better understanding of how to approach federal government resources. That we are here to help you in your journey of obtaining a federal contract, or just understanding how the government buys, when it buys, how you can conduct market research, all of those necessary steps to success in federal government. Before I officially introduce our first presenter, Sharon Hopkins, I would like for everyone to know to keep your lines muted and keep your cameras off. If you have any questions during the presentation, just put them in the chat. My colleague Shonda Harris and I will be monitoring the chat, and we will work on asking the question at an appropriate time. We're not going to cut the presenter off, but we also won't let it go too far into the weeds because sometimes the question is relevant to the wherever the presenter is in their presentation. So today you are going to hear from Sharon Hopkins. She is the Ohio University PTAC Program Manager, and she's going to describe PTAC services. You're going to hear from Phil McLean. He is a Small Business Administration Procurement Center Representative. He is going to talk about the role of Procurement Center Representatives in federal contracting. But then also how you can approach a Procurement Center representative, when you should and how you should. And then we're also going to hear from Brad Wall. He is with the National Guard Bureau, and he is in contracting at the National Guard Bureau, I would say the Ohio National Guard Bureau. And he is going to talk about how his agency buys goods and services, and how, as a small business, if you would like to do business with the National Guard Bureau, what steps you can take towards success. So, as I said before, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And then finally, I will be doing a live demonstration on how to find small business points of contact at the Department of Health and Human Services. You can use that as a model when identifying other small business points of contact within federal agencies. And Shonda is also, my colleague Shonda Harris, also with the SBA Columbus District Office, will be providing a demonstration as well. So we may finish a little bit before noon, we may not. So hopefully you will have some good takeaways from this presentation. So Sharon, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen, Jill, just to make sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm with the Procurement Technical Assistance Center at Ohio University, and we specialize in helping businesses sell to government agencies. So what does that mean? The government buys billions, with the B, dollars worth of services and product every single year. They will pay on time, assuming you submit a proper invoice, which we can assist with as well. And we are here to help bring dollars, whether you're contracting with the federal government, state or local, and either bring it to Ohio or leave it in Ohio. So I'm also adding people as we go. So if you see me stop for a split second, it's because I just saw something else pop up. So last year, the Ohio University PTAC, the clients that we worked with, received $1.1 billion in contracts last year. So they are successful. If you work hard at it, you could be successful as well. There are certain set-asides that both large cities, the state, and the federal government have that you can apply for. And when you're a PTAC client, we will talk to you about any and all of the set-aside programs to see if any of them would fit you and your business. If they do and you choose to go after one of the certifications, then we will also assist with you obtaining that certification. We cannot file the certification for you, but we can give you pointers, help you fill out the application, make sure you have the right documents, those kinds of things. So the ones for federal government are as woman-owned small business, the 8A program, which is for disadvantaged businesses, Hub Zone, which is for, it's called Hub Zone, historically underutilized business zone. And there are lots of zones throughout Ohio. So that is, that's dependent upon where you're located and where your employees live. And then a service disabled veteran certification. And we can help with any and all of those. I won't talk much about that, just know that they are available. We do not help with grants or business to business, but we help with government to business, your business, hopefully. We also do training events, group training events just like this. We also do some in-person events. We assist with giving you a daily bid match that matches your service or your product against what the government's buying. And you would see that every day. And then we have one-on-one meetings with you as well. And our services are at no cost to you. Again, you know, we talked a little bit about services. I mentioned the certification. There's registrations at different levels of government. SAM being the federal certification that seems to be causing the most disruption for people lately. We also assist in marketing your company. So we help you develop a capability statement, which is kind of a resume about your company. And it's written in terms the government wants to see and understand. We can also assist you with market research. And of course, I mentioned bid match, which is the daily bid match that matches you against the government. We work with proposal development. So if you find a solicitation, we'll look over that with you, we'll review it, and then we will give you pointers on your proposal, review that as well, so that you have a better chance, hopefully, of winning the award. And then post-consideration awards, which is after you won the award, we can assist. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, invoicing, that seems to be a big one that we help with a whole lot. And then the General Service Administration has schedules that people can be placed on, and we can help with that as well. That's not something that we recommend for every type of business, but it is something that we can help with should that be a goal of yours. To sign up for our services, if you're in Ohio, all you have to do is go to ptac.ohio.edu. You'll see the offices here on our map throughout Ohio. There is a website. Our association has a list or a map of the country, and you can find another PTAC if you're not in Ohio. So again, you go, if you're an Ohio company, go to ptac.ohio.edu, select the new client registration tab at the top and complete the initial application. Once that happens, that triggers our staff member that's nearest you to reach out to you and schedule a time to get with you and find out what your goals are, and work out a plan for you to hopefully get into the government market and be successful. We are, like I said, we are free to you. We are paid for by the Department of Defense, gives us federal funds, the state of Ohio, and then Ohio University matches those funds to provide this service to you. So with that, I will, I'll stop sharing here, and I will turn this back over to Jill.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I appreciate it. And we are now going to hear from Phil McLean. He is a SBA Procurement Center Representative. So Phil, do you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, everybody. My name's Phil McLean. I'm a Procurement Center Representative here in Columbus, Ohio. Pardon me, I'm trying to get my screen to share here. Just give me just a moment. And let me know if you guys can see this. Okay.
I can see it. You just need to put it on full screen. There you go. Okay.
All right, here we go. So I'm going to talk to you about the kind of the roles, responsibilities, what a PCR is, and how we can help you dealing with federal government contracting. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to our office, which is the SBA Office of Government Contracting. If you want to know a little bit more about our office, I have provided a link here on this slide. Can tell you a little more about what we do. I will also get into that in the upcoming slides. SBA's Office of Government Contracting is broken down into 6 geographical areas. Currently, in Ohio, we fall under Area 4. It covers a 10-state area of the Great Plains and the Great Lakes regions. But if you were located in a different area, this map kind of shows the breakdown of those area offices and how they overlap with the regional offices. There's 4 main elements that the SBA Office of Government Contracting deals with. And this slide will show you those 4. First off is the size and status program. So we deal with all things, size when you're dealing with federal contracting. If your size is protested, it will be handled by, SBA area office. We also work with certificates of competency. And if you don't know what those are, I'll briefly talk about that. That's where an agency has determined your business to be non-responsible in response to a solicitation on an offer that you presented. So you would otherwise receive the award, but the contracting officer does not believe that you can complete performance for some reason. The certificate of competency program provides that the contracting officer in that situation will have to refer that over to SBA, and we do an independent review of the small business, and we decide if we believe that the business can perform the work, and if we can, then we issue that certificate to the contracting officer, and in most cases they are required to proceed with the award. So that's a really good program a lot of people don't know about. We also have commercial market representatives, and that is usually dealing with other than small businesses or large businesses, as people like to say, and their subcontracting programs, because they also have requirements to provide work to small businesses if they're taking federal money. And lastly, the Procurement Center Representatives, which is what I am and what the majority of this presentation will cover. So a little bit more about the PCR position. It is discussed in federal regulation in the FAR at 19.402. It's also in SBA regulations at 13 Code of Federal Regulations, or CFR subsection 125.2. And it's also in the Small Business Act itself, so it's in statute. And what a PCR has to be is, first of all, an acquisition professional, so an 1102 federal series. They also have to be level 3 certified, which is a professional certification for contracting. We also have to complete on-the-job training. There's an 80-hour requirement within every 2 years to maintain that certification. PCRs also have to have a security clearance, a background on acquisitions, obviously. And we are covered by the Procurement Integrity Act for the release of contract information. So there's a lot of qualifications involved here. Usually takes over 10 years to get to that level 3 contracting certification. So, PCRs are very knowledgeable in contracting, is basically what this is saying. So PCRs, really, they kind of cover a lot of things. A lot of our customers are all over the board, so of a wide variety of customers and outcomes. This slide here kind of shows an interaction of who the PCR deals with. I believe those arrows should be double-sided and not just one-way arrows, because it does go back and forth. But in this case, I would say the 3 ones on the left, the federal buyers, the small business professionals, and the small businesses, are who PCRs deal with most often, usually on a daily basis. Especially the small business professional. That is the PCR's main point of contact with any federal agency. But we also, we'll deal directly with the contracting officers or the federal buyers. We can help small businesses. We also work with SBA staff at both the district office and even SBA headquarters level. And we also interact with our resource partners, such as PTAC and SBDC, or Small Business Development Centers, and Veteran and Women's Business Outreach Centers. So this slide, we're basically going to talk about what the PCR does. And in general, you can sum it up with, they just advocate on behalf of small businesses. And that can be an individual small business, but generally more, collectively as a whole, all of the small businesses, because we are located generally at federal contracting offices, and we're trying to ensure that their policies and their small business program is favorable, treats favorably to small businesses. So, and we also, mediate small business issues. We train federal agency personnel, resource partner staff, and vendors. We definitely work closely with contracting staff at federal buying offices. As I mentioned before, many PCRs actually have an office within the contracting office. Now, I think I have 12 federal contracting offices that I work with. I don't have an office in all 12 buildings, but my main, federal contracting office that I deal with, my office is in their building. So kind of like an insider-outsider relationship that I have there. I don't belong to them. I belong to SBA, but I work with them, and we're required to work together. And how I do that is, with these bullets here, we communicate with upcoming requirements, we review solicitations, upcoming solicitations. I will inform my agencies of any updates that we get to the small business laws and regulations, our certification programs. I can review subcontracting plans. And generally, I just make sure that their policies and procedures, are designed to, be favorable to small businesses and comply with the laws of the land. So PCRs, we do review acquisitions to make recommendations. Here's some of the things that we can do, but that middle one, that We can recommend any alternate contracting method that we believe will reasonably increase small business opportunities. That's a kind of a cover-all, catch-all of all the other things. So, we will recommend, breaking out work for small business. We will recommend, setting aside an acquisition, for exclusive small business participation. Those are the kind of things that we do when we are working with our agencies. A lot of times we have thresholds on what we will review. So some agencies have a lot of procurements going out every year, maybe thousands. We do have to set a limit. Obviously, I'm one guy, I can't review thousands of procurements for all 12 agencies that I have, but I generally will review anything that is over a certain dollar threshold, just to ensure that the agency is doing what they're supposed to do, following the small business rules that are in FAR Part 19 and other areas of the FAR as well. And if you wanted to know some of those regulatory references where you can find some of this information in the FAR, it's mostly in FAR Part 19, but here's a little more detail on, it's a big chapter of the FAR, obviously, with subsections and things like that. And this slide will give you a little more information about where to go if you're looking for specifics on any of these topics here. And I will share this slide presentation with everybody. As soon as I get through it, I will go ahead and I'll send it. I'll put it in the chat. PCR resources and tools. So this slide kind of tells you how we interact with each of our resource partners, federal buyers, and actual small businesses. So these are the tools we use for interacting with them. So when we're talking about resource partners, we will partner up with the PTAC or SBDC or the district office to participate in outreach events. We have a referral system where, if a small business has a contracting question, maybe the resource partner will refer them to the PCR. If it's a general business question, maybe the PCR will refer them to one of the resource partners for the best possible advice you can get. So it's a back and forth kind of system. And then when we're dealing with federal buyers, there's a lot of tools there. This is kind of the bread and butter of what the PCR does, but we do review acquisitions that would fall under there with our normal business, daily business activities, and usually that's covered under a business operation plan that kind of defines the roles that the PCR has with an agency. We help them achieve their small business goals, and we can analyze their goals at any time and say, hey, you guys really need to step it up on your goals. Here's some ideas on ways to do that. We conduct surveillance reviews. That's more or less an audit, just to ensure that the agencies are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we can help them with market research and things like that. And then when we're working with small businesses, we'll do public speaking events similar to what we're doing here. Or if anybody's been to a matchmaker service, you might find your PCR there giving a presentation, and generally providing contracting help with to small businesses. It's a way we counsel small business owners. If it's a question that's more along the lines of business development or loans or something, that PCR is not really going to be able to help you with that, but they'll point you in the right direction. But if it's a contracting question, a PCR or BOS generally should be able to assist you with those kind of questions. We also will help connect a small business with a procurement center. Generally, that's done through the agency small business office. So it's a person who has a similar job but works for the agency, and they're in charge of their program. And I will provide a little more information on that when we get later in the presentation here. So you probably heard me mention a BOS, that's a business opportunity specialist. I do want to talk a little bit about the differences between what a PCR does and what a BOS does. So a BOS, they work in the SBA district offices. They're part of the Office of Field Operations, and a PCR works usually at a government contracting facility under the Office of Government Contracting. A PCR, they mainly focus on the procuring agency's use of the small business programs, while a BOS is focused on generally 8A type contracting, and they are at the district office, so they might be able to provide more assistance with things like pointing in the right direction for loan education or economic development, where a PCR, going back and forth, I know, will usually deal with things like size determination, certificate of competency, the woman-owned or hub zone program, and soon the service disabled vet is going to be a SBA certification program. It's transferring from the VA to SBA. That will be in the very near future. Please go to your SBA, your local district office website for more updates on that when it happens. SBA website, sba.gov, will have updates on that when that's supposed to happen. More differences between the PCR and the BOS. Generally, the PCR will help with any small business particular issues, so size questions, set aside concerns, and disputes. Where an BOS is going to generally deal with processing 8A applications, offering and acceptance letters, and things of that nature. And with that, I definitely want to tell you how to contact the PCR. That's one of the most important parts of this. Well, it's actually pretty easy. But we'll get into when you should contact the PCR. I'm sorry, I'm going to skip this slide. And it's this presentation is I give it to federal contracting as well. So some of these listed things here are for when a federal contracting agency should contact the PCR, because they generally need to interact with us too, and things like market research tools and internal acquisition strategies is going to fall under them. But for small businesses, if you have size or COC or status questions, you can ask us that. You can come to us when you have any agency disputes, or maybe you don't understand something. You've talked to a contracting officer and you don't understand what they're saying, or a small business specialist, and you maybe you don't understand what they're saying either. You can come to a PCR, and we don't fall under the agency. We are separate, so we can give you a very hopefully clear answer and assist you in ways that maybe the agency isn't able to. Now, this is how you contact the PCR. There's one way of doing it would be to go to sba.gov, and you see the drop down for federal contracting. Also under that, you'll see a Procurement Center Representative directory. You can do that, you can bookmark it. The way I usually do it is I just open up Google and I type PCR directory, and it's usually the top result. I don't know about every web browser, but I believe it would be towards the top. Just make sure wherever you're at a government agency from sba.gov, and you can pull up that PCR directory. And the good thing about our PCR directory, it's updated regularly. You actually get the contact information of a person. It's not a generalized mailbox that you may or may not get a response from. I know it's harder and harder to get actual people's names and phone numbers and email addresses these days. So the PCR directory does that. And it's broken down not only by area office, as if you can remember the 6 area offices that I showed you on that map, but it's also broken down by state, and then by which major federal procuring or contracting office is within those states. So, for example, if you wanted to find out who the Procurement Center Representative was for, let's say, NASA Glenn Research Center, that's up in Cleveland, Ohio, you could go to this PCR directory and then just do a Control F, a find while you're on that page, and type in Glenn, and you'll see that the PCR is Phil McLean. That's me, and it has my contact information there. Or if you wanted to, find out who the PCR was for, Crane, the Naval Warfare Center, Crane in Indiana, you could type that in a search or find seek, and you'll find out who the PCR for that is, along with their contact information, the best way to get a hold of them. So that's a really good tool, and you can definitely get a hold of somebody. And there might be a situation where this isn't updated as regularly as we would like. It does take time to process these changes on the website. So if you happen to have some outdated information here, this also, you contact somebody and maybe they're not the PCR for that agency anymore. They'll tell you who the new contact is, or if that person may be retired. Well, also on this page, you can above the Procurement Center Representative Directory, you have a list of the area directors. Now, the area directors are who we work for, so you can contact the area director directly, and they can tell you who the new PCR is, if that's the case. Hopefully, those are far and few between, those kind of situations. We do try to get this updated as soon as possible when we know things like that are changing. And that was my last slide. So if anybody has any questions, we can open it up for that. And while we're doing that, I am going to add this slide presentation into the chat. And I will also provide everybody with the Area 4, like I said, this is SBA Area 4, the 10-state area, a directory of all the federal contracting offices within the 10-state area and their small business point of contact. I will add that into the chat as well.
All right, thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate it. I feel like I learned something every time, and hopefully to the attendees today, if it's the first time you've heard the title Procurement Center Representative, you have a better understanding of what their role is in government contracting and how they assist small business, and how they can assist you. And as Phil mentioned, there's a time well, he didn't word it exactly that way, but there's a way to approach the PCR in a time, but they're always there to help you. Again, it's I actually got a call this morning from a business that said, I think I'm doing something wrong. I just don't see the opportunities. I don't see what to do. No, you're not doing anything wrong. It just takes a while to understand the process in government contracting and how to find and where to find and who to talk to. So it just takes a little bit of time. And we do have a question, Phil. How many PCRs are there total?
Well, currently there's probably about 38 to 40. I know at full staff we're generally around, so anywhere between 50 and 70. One time we used to have over 100 PCRs, but our resources are what they are. We can't really do anything about that. We have about I think 40 PCRs across the country. Some of us are located in a state where we're the only PCR in that state. In Ohio, there's actually 2 PCRs. There's a guy who covers Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and I cover the rest of the entire state. And then, there's states that don't have a PCR. They reside in a neighboring state, but that really doesn't make a difference. PCRs, the job's the job, regardless of where you're at, because it's federal contracting. The rules are pretty much the same in any state. So I hope that answers the question.
All right, thank you. And Phil has put in the Word document, the listing of SBA Area 4 PCR points of contact, and also has presentation for today. So if you go into the chat, you should be able to download that, okay? And all right, another question, how are they divided? What criteria should we follow to reach a particular PCR?
Sure, so we're divided, as that one slide that had the map on it shows, there's 6 area offices. And then, generally I would say each area office has, 5 to 10 PCRs. And they're just assigned based on the where they're located at, first of all, but then the amount of work. So sometimes there's a balancing involved where, maybe the guy in Iowa has to cover a contracting office in Indiana because that's how the work needs to be balanced amongst all the PCRs, so that not one PCR is totally overwhelmed. So everybody's gainfully employed too. That's the other side of that coin. And how should you reach a particular PCR? That the PCR directory, gives you, how to contact the PCR. I'm going to say email is probably the best way to do it. Especially with a lot of people working divided, in office, at home. Sometimes it's probably best to use email. They will always be able to respond to email, where phone, maybe they forgot to forward their calls for that day or something like that, and then you have to wait for them to get your message and respond. If you want the fastest response, it's probably email.
All right, any further questions for Phil right now? Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in through the chat. So thank you very much, Phil. I appreciate your time today, as always. So
Thank you.
Oh, here we go. Phil mentioned the SBA competency certification. Can we proactively get that, or is it usually just when you're awarded a contract?
No, that's a good question. So that can only be done when a contracting officer receives your offer or proposal and determines that your company cannot perform that specific requirement. So it's not something you can proactively get. It's only situational in a specific situation, and it's only for that single contract. So that's that works both ways too. So an agency can't say, hey, we determined I'm non-responsible on this previous contract. Well, that's a previous contract. This specific one is what matters, and the COC is only going to be for that specific contract where that situation actually happened. Very good question. It's a confusing program, but it's a very helpful program, and it's usually it's more rare that it happens, so that's actually a good thing. We want agencies to award to small businesses, but sometimes they and usually justifiably so, they have some reservations when a company may not have performance history or financial the finances or the capacity to perform a contract. And maybe the contracting officer says, well, I don't think they can do it. And in that very specific situation, it's you have to be in line for award. You have to be the contractor that is, if everything else was okay, you would be getting that award. If only you had the finances to do this or the capacity to do this. In that situation, the contracting officer is required by the FAR to refer that case over to SBA area office, and then we will assign an industrial specialist. Sometimes it's a size specialist or a PCR that's wearing multiple hats. I've worked as an industrial specialist on COC cases, And we'll take an independent look. We'll work with the small business to see if they can perform that work, and if they can, if we believe that they can, we'll issue that certificate. And if we don't, we don't issue the certificate. It's about a 50-50 chance on those.
Okay, and all right, someone couldn't see the presentation. Shonda is addressing that. I don't see any. Thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, I will go ahead now. Brad, if you can turn on your camera and unmute your line. We are going to hear from Brad Wall. He is with the National Guard Bureau, and he works with small business on a regular basis, but he's primarily in contracting. I will not, I'll have him introduce himself and his title, and he's going to talk about doing business with the National Guard Bureau and how things work for his agency and how you as a small business can approach and find opportunities with the National Guard Bureau. All right, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to you, Brad.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, and I can
All
see
right.
your presentation. It looks like it's on full screen.
Good. My name is Brad Wall. I am the Ohio USPFO, United States Property and Fiscal Office, SCS, Supervisory Contract Specialist. As you know, in the Army, we do a lot of acronyms, and in the military, so I'll try to spell them out for you. Basically, I'm responsible for all the contracting for the Army and Air Force using federal funds within the state of Ohio. So each state has a USPFO office. I work under my boss is an 06, a full bird colonel, Colonel Caldwell. So each state and territory, so there's 54 of these offices spread out throughout the United States and territories. Change screens. Basically, we're split up into different areas, mostly around Columbus. I'm here at the Army headquarters building in Dublin, Ohio, in Beetler, right next to the Ohio State University Airport. We also have 4 wings throughout the state. The 178th wing in Springfield, the 121st in Rickenbacker, the 180th up in Toledo, and the 179th in Mansfield. That's centered around basically where our bases are, so that's where most of the opportunities will be. There is other bases throughout the state that we support, as you'll see on the next slide. But in general, that's where the hub of the activity is going to be centered in those areas. Within my office, we have about 11 contracting officers and contract specialists. Each wing has about 5 contracting officers and contract specialists. And so between us, we handle all the contracts throughout the state. Who we support, as you can see here on this slide, obviously we're spread out throughout the entire state. We've been particularly busy the last few years with dealing with the COVID, dealing with a lot of modernization effects with the United States Air Force and Army. So we're considered one of the big states. If you look at the federal contracting system, we're considered like one of the big states. If you look at compared to like California, Ohio, Texas, the states that have a lot of military, we're like the top, usually top 10 for sure. I'll give you 2 years worth of data. I'm not going to bore you, but in 2021, we did $20 million worth of data, most of which was done by the Army side. That's the light green, the 280 actions. Those are 280 contracts or modifications to contracts that we did. The wings are also probably about 25% or the 35% of the contracts that we did in 2021. in 2021, of that number, of the money that we spent, almost $20 million, 19.5 was eligible for small businesses, of which 17.9, almost 18 million was awarded to small business. So by far, 92% of our money in dollars is spent for small businesses, and that's not a mistake. That's not an accident. That is how we do things here. We always start with small business first. Our goals in 2021, our goal was 20% for small disadvantage. We blew it out of the water with almost 63%. We didn't have a goal for 8A or veteran-owned small businesses, but we hit the 15.8%, 29% for veteran-owned small business. Some of these overlap, just so you know. And then service disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, our goal was 9%, we hit 31. So as you can see here, we're constantly hitting we hit all our goals in 2021. How we do our goals in fiscal year 2022, I track this on a weekly basis. I can pull up our data and see which targets that we're hitting by quarter. This is for fiscal year 22's data. Our goal was 68% for small business. We were again almost 92%, 91%. Disadvantage 53. We all green all the way across the board. I don't want to brag, but I will. Our state is one of the few states that hits all of our targets. I'd say we track these very closely. We track it so much that throughout the year, in order to hit the goals, you need to know where you're at and what you need to hit. So we'll steer money towards different contracts in order to help hit our goals. So number of actions, again, the bulk of which went to, we did 325 for the Army side, and then you can see the rest are there. I don't have a total there, but I probably should do that. But very similar actions, and this numbers like this just basically drive our manpower, things like that. For contracting dollars, we spent more. We did more last year, 25.7 million. A lot of those.
Brad, just real quick, and you might be addressing this later in your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So Amanda Ratliff, ARC Healthcare, do we have to have past performance with your agency to be considered for contracting?
No, not. We check your past performance when we award the business. If you have no past performance, that's not an automatic disclaimer. That's for sure not. That's just maybe a note like, okay, they haven't worked with us before. We might have to take a little bit more time to help them get on board with us, but it's not a disclaimer. It's not a requirement to have past performance with us.
And she also asked for DHA, and I'm not sure, Amanda, what DHA is, or military is the goal for VOSB, SDVOSB versus woman-owned. Brad, you just had a slide on that, but for federal government, it's 5% set aside for woman-owned and a 3% set aside for service-disabled veteran-owned, and that's like a military and civilian agency-wide.
Okay, these goals that I see on my screen when I go to my dashboard maybe are generated by National Guard Bureau, and they might be higher. I think they are probably pushing us to hit higher goals than what you just said. So I think that might be why there's a difference.
And also, I will say, like, the National Guard Bureau just really blows it out of the water in terms of meeting small business goals. So this is really extraordinary. So thank you. I don't see any other questions right now. Thank you.
Okay. Number of actions, I did that. Contracting dollars, did that. Now this is an interesting slide. Okay. As you know, we're always lately we've been under a continuous resolution. Basically, we're not allowed to spend new dollars on new stuff until we get a budget passed by Congress. That last year, I don't think we got our money until like May of last year. So if we get we're also not allowed to, we also do not put anything out for bid that we don't have funding for. We're not like fishing to see who's out there, doing market research and then not fund it. That's against the rules. So we have to have funding approved before we're allowed to purchase something. If we don't have funding approved, then we have basically a letter saying that, promising that money will be there. So a lot of the contracts that we write right now are basically things that are for, like food for soldiers, shelter, things of basic necessities. We're allowed to do that. But if we're doing any new construction or anything like that, typically we will not be putting those out for bid until June or July, and then awarding in August, and then hopefully getting them all awarded by the end of September. So that last month of the year for us is critical. Right now, everybody's kind of coasting. Hey, we're not much to do. We're doing training. We're cleaning up the files from last year. But every summer, it's the same way around here. We're totally swamped in July, August, and September. So if I'm a vendor and if I'm looking out into my timing of when things are going to get solicited, for sure, really pay attention in May, June, July. Those are our critical times. I'll talk a little bit more about that stuff later, but one thing that I would make sure that you know your NAICS codes, which you're going to be working with your small business representatives to know that. Develop your business capability statement. Again, you're going to be working with your small business representative for that. They're going to help you register in SAM. If you're not in SAM, we can't use you. You have to be in SAM for us to award to you. So that's number one. Make sure you're registered in SAM, and use assistance from the Small Business Administration to help you find the small business search, because that's how we do it. And I'll show you on SAM. I'll go to the internet and show you what we currently have in a few minutes. Figure out what qualifications that you have. If you're service disabled, veteran owned, that type of thing, because often you can see it drives how we award business. If we're low on service disabled, I'm gonna steer more business around the state towards that. There's also the federal acquisition regulations. I have a copy of the book. As you can see, it's really, really thick. That's the federal one. The defense one is right here. It's basically the same size. Those are the rules that we have to follow in contracting. And that's why it takes so long to train contracting officers, because of the regulations. And the rules are there not really to discourage you or just primarily to protect the federal government. It's also to protect the contractor. We look at it as oftentimes some of the clauses that are in your contract, they're picked, not just we don't want to load it up with a bunch of rules if we don't have to, with a bunch of clauses. We're required to put certain things in, but a lot of them are there to protect you as the business owner. They're not necessarily it also is to protect us, but it goes both ways. So I just want to encourage you not to get discouraged by the amount of paperwork associated with a contract. But it's good to be familiar with the FAR. Explore subcontracting opportunities with your prime contractors. Oftentimes when I award business for a construction site, for example, up at Camp James A. Garfield up near Youngstown, we have a fence that goes around the entire facility. It's like, I don't know how many square miles that place is, probably 40 or something square miles. But the fence was there from the 1940s. So we don't have enough funding to do we could do the whole fence one year, but oftentimes we'll award sections of it each year to get it replaced. Oftentimes there's a subcontractor for the guy that's putting the fence in, So if you pay attention to who won the business, even if you're not the prime contractor, there's opportunities there that you might be able to get in on and be like the secondary contractor, a subprime contractor. We also monitor who the prime contractors do. They have to also go to small business as well. So we're looking at that when we award contracts and when we administer contracts. And then marketing your firm to the right contacts. I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to share my screen to sam.gov. And oftentimes when you do this share thing, it doesn't work. So, okay, here we go. Continue on. So basically, this is my home. So I log in. Your screen would probably look slightly different, but we generally post everything that we're awarding on sam.gov. Unless it's a sole source contract that we have to award to somebody that they're the only ones that make it, then it's going to be on sam.gov. The other things that impact us is timing. If we don't have much time, like we're near the end of the fiscal year and we have to award something, we have the capabilities to award things directly and not compete it. But generally, hang on a second. Sorry about that. It's like a big discussion going on outside my office. All right, so these are 13 active contract opportunities within the Ohio National Guard right now. I'm working with our contract specialists to maybe have more clear descriptions in the topics, like what does a YRRP mean? You know, that I know what it means. It's a yellow ribbon program. It's basically a program that we put out for soldiers that are going to deploy. And if they're deploying overseas for like a year, we generally have a conference site, like a big hotel, and we have agencies come in, explain to them and their families all the things that are the benefits that they have and resources to help them get through that deployment. Included in that is going to be lodging and catering and food for the event. There's also going to be daycare for children, things like that. So that's what that means. But if you're looking for jobs, if you're looking to bid on something, this is where you need to go. Oftentimes, if it's something that when we do market research, we're required to do market research on pretty much every contract. We need to know what's out there, and we'll do what's called a sources sought, which is, hey, we're thinking about building this new building. It's going to have a crane on it and whatever, and we think we want to put it towards service disabled or woman-owned small businesses. Are there anybody? We put it out there for like 2 weeks and say, hey, any woman-owned small businesses, if you're interested, please let us know if you're able to do this, and send us a capability statement. If you can get those, if you can help us out by responding to those, because what'll happen is if we put it out for woman-owned small businesses and we don't get enough interest, then we're going to open it up to all small business. And if we open it up to all small business and we don't get enough business, then we resolicit it to all businesses, to like large business. So generally we start with the goal that we're trying to meet, if we have time, of course, and then we'll open it up to small business if we have to, but we like to focus it. And then again, at the last resort, okay, we don't have any small businesses, we'll put it out for everybody. So when you click on here, it gives you the information about the event, or about what we're trying to do. What type of event? Is it a sources sought, or is it a actual solicitation? Like I told you earlier, we do not waste your time putting things out unless we have a purchase request. We're not allowed to do that. So if we're putting it out, it's an actual need. That means, but it might be only a sources sought. So if it's a sources sought, I mean, we're not asking you to bid on it. We're not asking you because we're not giving you that much information. We're just saying, hey, here's something we're thinking about. Are there companies out there that can do that? So it tells you what type of solicitation it is. In this case, it's an actual solicitation, not a source of sought. When it's published, when the offers are due. It gives you all the information about the NAICS code and things like that, and a classification. Now, if you want more information, we got all the attachments, the performance work statement, the actual solicitation itself, how to, basically what we're trying to buy. And this is your primary point of contact. This is a contract specialist in my office, Rachel. And if you have any questions or whatever, you can contact her by email. You can also call her. I recommend email because a lot of people are teleworking right now still, and they have phones here in the office, but I can tell you that they don't check they should, but they don't check their phones as often as they should. So oftentimes you'll leave a message on their phone, and I don't know why this person's not calling me back. Well, yeah, that person's probably teleworking 2 or 3 days a week and maybe hasn't checked her phone yet. So best way is probably shoot an email, but that gives you someone to ask questions about. And then you can also, we'll take all the bids that we get from the solicitation, and we'll make a decision at that point. Most of the time it's lowest price, technically acceptable, or the lowest price, but we also look for capability. We also look for past performance oftentimes, and we'll also check your CPARs to make sure that you had any bad contracts, say in the last 2 years or so, but it's not a requirement. Let's see, next slide I wanted to share. Let me go back. So definitely use Sam if you want to do business
Brad,
with us.
before you
Yeah.
move on, can you scroll up on the page you're on?
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay. There's it looks, when someone is using sam.gov and they want to find opportunities with National Guard Bureau, one of the things that it's the key is in the filtering, like
Exactly.
and the PTACs give training on filtering in sam.gov.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just trying to see if I could see the filters you used, but you're going in as the contracting officer. So
Yeah, I'm
I would
probably
say,
totally different. I'm not filtering. It filters by my organization. So yeah, I'm not an expert on how to filter. I know you guys know how to do that.
So Jill,
right. Well, yeah.
I was just going to say, you can filter if you know the agency's DODAC code.
Mm-hmm.
You can filter that way.
Yeah, all our contracts start with W91364. That's the Army DODAC for the state of Ohio. But the wings,
and maybe go into what a DODAC is for those that may not have heard that term before.
I don't even know what it stands for. Defense.
Yeah, it's like
Department.
the location code, right?
Yeah, it's your location code. So all
and every agency has, in every department, I believe, within an agency, they have different location codes.
Right. Yeah.
But to find, I highly recommend, if those of you that are new to finding opportunities using sam.gov, you can, I believe, in addition to DODACs, if you don't have those, like you can search by state, you can search by agency. Those are two more broad filters. You can search by NAICS code. If you search by NAICS code, then you get at least an idea of what is out there that is current under your industry code. But then if you wanted to look locally, you could look up agency. Department of Defense Activity Address Code. Shonda Harris, you always deliver.
Okay.
Sixth position. Look at her. She put it in the chat.
Oh, I think there's probably a way to have it trigger and send you an email if any opportunities come up with that code, or, I mean, I'm guessing that's one way that it works. Because I know oftentimes, like we get near the summer and we're doing all these construction projects, and we know who's done them in the past. We have we have vendors that, hey, they always bid on it, and oftentimes they're doing work up there. They hear things, obviously. They're up there at the base, so they have a little advantage, I think, slightly. But we're not supposed to tell them ahead of time, hey, make sure you bid on this. But if it's public knowledge, if it's already out there, then it's like, hey, make sure you look at this because we just put it out. We're allowed to say that. But I think they must have a way that triggers that they know that when it's coming. But it's also like we do basically the same contracts about all the time. We're doing a lot of yellow ribbon. We also, like, for example, every summer, the military band tours around the state, and they have performances, and they have hotel needs that they need to stay at all these hotels, and they generally stay in roughly the same regions every time. So that's always a contract that we have, several contracts that we have to write. And there's always like band instruments that we have to buy for them. And there's always, so those same things that occur, they almost all the time, every year, there's going to be some concerts for the band. Every year there's going to be lodging for Yellow Ribbon because we're constantly deploying people. Every year there's going to be probably, if there's budget allowed, there's new fencing that has to put in, culverts, there's demolition that has to be done for old facilities. There's new barracks that usually get built. There's machine gun ranges and stuff like that aren't every year, but lately it seems like it. There's road paving that we do on the bases. So there's stuff that's constantly being done. Now, I will give you some information. If it's under $1 million, that's kind of a threshold for us for a lot of things. If it's over $1 million, we have to go to our National Guard Bureau, and they get to look at all of our paperwork and all of our files, and that just slows the process up completely. And you imagine 54 states and territories sending their documents to National Guard Bureau for review. It slows everything up. So guess what? We try to keep our contracts below 1 million. So oftentimes for like the fence, for example, I will do a long section of fence for like, we know it's going to be around 600,000 or something. And then we'll break up each section as we go as an option. And then what we'll do is we'll get maybe 6 or 8 options added to the contract, and we'll be right at $950,000 magically. Okay, we're going to go through options 1 through 6. And so that allows us to stay under that $1 million threshold, which allows us to actually get things done without having to waste time going to National Guard Bureau. So that's a little inside information maybe on how we like to set things up. You'll see that in the solicitation. Like you'll have a base solicitation, then you'll have options after that. Does that make sense?
And yeah, it does. And I want to add that is kind of unique to the Ohio National Guard Bureau, especially what I've seen federal agency-wide, the use of indefinite delivery, definite quantity contracts that have these $500 million ceilings. That just makes it really hard for small business to even compete with the past performance requirements on those. So to see smaller contracts is a great way for small business to get started. And I see Mr. Hester, Wallace Hester has asked this twice now.
Okay.
And can anyone with the SAM registration subcontract? So I can.
Oh yeah, you don't have to be SAM. You don't have to be SAM registered to be a subcontractor. We don't check. Our contract is with the prime. But while we care about the subcontracts and make sure they're small business as well, what we don't want is a prime small contractor giving giving the contracts to actual big businesses. You know what I mean? That's not really what we want. We want small businesses giving business to other small businesses if necessary. But so we're not going to get, we will get involved if we start hearing that the prime is not paying the small business, their subs. I mean, that I'll get calls from people, hey, I haven't been paid. What's going on? I'm like, well, I don't pay you, obviously. But I can call up the prime and say, what's going on here? You're making me nervous. Why aren't you paying your subs? And then they'll say, well, it's because you haven't paid us. I'm like, well, wait, you need to invoice, or, that type of thing. So we'll work it, but you don't have to be a SAM. You don't have to be SAM registered if you are a subcontractor. What the
And I
primes
just want
do.
to add what a prime contract is. It's a direct relationship with the federal government. So
Right.
it would be if your company has that contract with the Ohio National Guard Bureau, for example, or your company has that contract with the Air Force. Now, if you're a subcontractor, that means that another contractor has that prime contract.
Right.
And in general, the government does not get involved with a prime in their sub relationships.
No,
So,
we don't.
like
We
Brad
don't
was
want to.
mentioning,
We've got
right.
enough headaches. We're not going to go looking for headaches. But only time we get involved if we start hearing, we might get contacted by the sub saying, hey, we do labor interviews as well. We will interview the people being on the job site to make sure that they're being paid the minimum amount that they're required for that job category, and those are published. And those are published in the solicitation and on the contract. So like a carpenter or whatever has to be making at least, $50 an hour or something like that. So when we do a job interview on site, it's usually, are you making at least this amount? And I'm not trying to get in to the business of how much people are being paid. I'm just making sure they're getting paid what they're supposed to be getting paid. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
I put up on my screen here's a list of services that we do that have more than 1 year contract. So in some of these cases, we do a prime contract, and then we'll do options, like 3 to 4 years of options. We track these in order to make sure that we don't have any gaps in services. Believe it or not, shop rags, for example, it's a $25,000 contract. We make sure that what we don't want is a gap in services. So we, as a kind of a service to our customers, which are all these people in this column here, we help them manage their contracts by keeping a track on when the contracts expire. And there's certain time requirements on when we have to initiate an option. So we don't want if we don't initiate the option, then we have to create a whole new contract, and that takes a long time. So a lot more work on our part. It's easier for us to brief we brief the staff here every week on this list. And there's also blanket purchase agreements that we have with companies that basically it's not a contract, it's just an agreement that we have a price list of food, for example, from these companies, and we're going to order off of that agreement. So we have a number of years set up already with these. It helps us spin contracts out faster because we don't really have the time to go out and compete, but we'll compete we might compete all these guys for a food request that's coming up in a couple weeks, and then they get out of those, one of them will get the award. Does that make sense? So those are called blanket purchase agreements. Well, we try to set these up because it does, time is a big issue oftentimes on trying to get things awarded and servicing our customer.
Brad, there are a lot of questions coming in for you. And then
Okay.
there's like another one that I think.
All right.
So,
Go ahead and I'll answer what I can.
Yeah, one of them, Sam Ondieri, hello, Sam, he's an 8A firm in our district.
Yeah.
Is the $1 million threshold sole source direct award, and Sam, I think you're speaking to 8A. Now, Brad was talking about most contracts that the National Guard Bureau awards is $1 million and below, not necessarily 8A.
Right, we do some 8A, but yeah, in general, and that's not all contracts. That's just, obviously you can't build a building necessarily that you want for under $1 million. So these are our general smaller business stuff. We try to keep it under $1 million, just it's just faster.
I
But
understand it. My question was directed because I know the state of Ohio, their threshold for sole source or direct awards is like 50,000. I didn't know if the $1 million was a sole source that you can do without having to put it for competitive bid or not.
no, we will compete as much as we can. That's how we get the best pricing. So that's only so it doesn't have to go to National Guard Bureau.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. When you say prime contractors, do prime contractors have to be registered for a particular service?
No,
Or
they have to
can
be,
they just, yeah, registered in
ahead.
SAM, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, they just have to be in
Or-
SAM.
Or can they just look for the subcontractors to fill? Okay, so now with that question, you're getting into limitations on subcontracting. Like what percentage of the contract do you as the prime contractor have to perform? And that's 13 CFR 125.6. You cannot, especially if you are a small business, you cannot subcontract out all of the work to a subcontractor.
No.
And no, that's not the intent of the program.
No.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
Unless
want to
they're
get,
similarly situated.
yeah, okay.
and so Shonda, if you can put the link to 13 CFR 125.6 in the chat, or just so that they can look at the limitations on subcontracting, that is pretty important.
Mhm.
I would like to know if there are any additional requirements for doing business with the Ohio Air National Guard, such as registrations with the state of Ohio.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If there's any additional requirements for doing business with the Ohio Air National Guard, I think they're speaking to the federal versus state funds. So such as registrations with the state of Ohio. So
There is
and I'm
a different agency for the state, yeah, and I know who some of them are, but I don't really get too involved. I don't know all their rules.
And that's part of what makes the National Guard Bureau unique, is that part of the funding comes from the state and part comes from federal government money. So Brad is on the federal side, so it's more adhering to the federal regulations in terms of 8A and SDBOS in the small business certifications, but there is also state funding, and then they recognize EDGE and MBE. So Brad is on the federal side. If you are a contractor from another state and win an award, does that contractor need any license Ohio requires for that type of work?
No,
Assuming the place of work would be Ohio and not the contractor's home state.
no, we've written contracts for people out of state. The works in Ohio. It doesn't matter what state you're from.
Okay, Shonda got that 13 CFR 125.6 and also FAR 52219-14. It speaks to limitations on subcontracting.
Okay.
So thank you for that. All right, I don't see any other questions right now.
Okay, here's my point of contact information. I think I covered everything that I had talked about. And you can reach out to me. I'll do my best to get back to you. I do have a inordinate amount of emails, so sometimes it's hard to keep it up. So, but I appreciate the time, and really, we need these small businesses to do what we do, or else, the more business we have, the more small businesses we have, the more options we have, and that's why I'm participating in events like this. So thank you for allowing me to speak to you.
And I really appreciate your time today. I think and I appreciate the audience questions. These are great because this gives us an idea of the level of knowledge that our participants have. So I would also like to say that Brad and the whole team from the Ohio National Guard Bureau attends the Ohio Business Matchmaker every year. It has for the last 10 years at least. So if you're not familiar with the Ohio Business Matchmaker, it's one of the largest government to business matchmaking events in the state. And it was held virtually during the pandemic. We just had our first in-person this past July, where we invite federal agencies from not just Ohio, but the contiguous states, and if they have the budget for it, agencies from out of state as well. So based on a lot of the questions, I think that continuing to meet with your PTAC point of contact will answer a lot of those. Just getting additional information on how to navigate the limitations on subcontracting, what it means to be a prime contractor, what it means to be a subcontractor, how to respond to proposals, sources sought notifications. Those are all things that fall under PTAC's purview, but we also do trainings on those as well. So a lot of thank yous for presenting today to you, Brad, and I greatly appreciate it as well. I am going to do a small demonstration as well, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, because we wanted this presentation to also focus on National Guard Bureau is like our highlight in terms of federal agencies for today, but also as you are building your what I call capture management. So as you're building your pipeline of opportunities, there are a couple of terms that are very useful for you to know when you are searching for federal agency points of contact, procurement forecasts, things that you can do without PTAC, things that you can do without, things that and PTAC will most likely assign these things to you. So I am going to talk about how to find points of contact within Health and Human Services, and then my colleague Shonda Harris is going to close us out. She is going to do another demonstration with another federal agency. So I will, full disclaimer, I really think that Health and Human Services does a great job of making their information easy for people to find if you know the right lingo to put in. So when you meet with a PTAC office or you call SBA and we say, oh, just go to the federal agency website, I bet you would love to just throw the computer out of the window or the phone when you hear us say that, because it's not that easy, is it? So one of the first acronyms I'm going to give you, and if you can write that down, it's OSDBU. We call it the OSDBU, but Phil mentioned at the beginning of during his presentation that one of his main points of contact are the small business professionals. So with any civilian agency, the small business professionals, it's a two-way communication. So it's between the small business professional and the business, and then between the business and the small business professional. And small business professionals are in tune with their not only their agency, but then the contracting. They're in tune with contracting within their agency, and their job is to assist small business in navigating their agency. So they are actual employees of federal agencies, but OSDBU. So with most civilian agencies, and I'll tell you the term for military agencies, and Phil, actually, I knew this, but I didn't mention it yesterday and I forgot. So for military agencies, and I'm going to write it in here so you can write them both down. So it's OSBP. Okay, so the Office of Small Business Programs. That's what that stands for. And this is for military. So if you were to go to DLA, or you're going to the Air Force, or National Guard, or the military agencies of the Navy, it's OSBP, so Office of Small Business Programs. So, but when you are on a civilian site like Health and Human Services, it's OSDBU. And when you hit search, the very first thing that pops up on this site is the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. So this, on any federal civilian website, if you go to the home screen in the little search box, you should be able to find the small business landing page. So what I think is really important on any of these, and as Phil mentioned, there's a time to contact a PCR. There's also a time to contact a small business professional. So the more information you're able to give a small business professional when you're reaching out to them, the more likely it is they'll be able to help you. So if you just reach out to them and say, I'm interested in doing business with the government, where are the contracts? That is a conversation that they will know that it is going to be very time consuming to explain, okay, you have to have a registration in SAM. Do you know how our agency works? Do you know the mission of our agency? So all of those things you should do absolutely before you contact a small business professional. And those are things that you can learn by meeting with PTAC. PTAC will give you all of that insider knowledge of, okay, what do you need to do to prepare to start speaking with some of the small business professionals? So if you look at the OSDBU site here, you'll see that the Health and Human Services has their mission and their vision right there. But say, for example, you have been looking at opportunities on SAM.gov, and through your market research of opportunities on SAM.gov, you see that there is an opportunity with Health and Human Services. So but you want to get more information about it, or introduce yourself to that agency. This is a great way to research that agency, look at how to contact them. And I will also say, when you're contacting them, you should have a capability statement. And if you don't know what a capability statement is, it's a one-page marketing piece that translates what you do, what your company does, into government speak. So it should have your company name, your UEI, your NAICS codes, your PSC, FSC, all of those things that are instrumental to translating into government speak. So the capability statement serves multiple functions, but it shows whomever you're contacting within the federal marketplace, it shows them, hey, this company understands our language. They have a UEI, which means they're registered in SAM. They know what their NAICS codes are. They've told us a little bit about past performance. So when you contact a small business professional, I highly recommend having a capability statement that you can present to them about your company. So say, for example, if you've gone on to SAM.gov and you see an opportunity, and I must have clicked on the wrong one. Where are the small business points of contact here? Here it is. So most federal civilian agencies will have like one headquarters for small and disadvantaged business utilization, but then outside of that, they'll have their operating divisions. So if you look here, this Natasha Boyce, if you see an opportunity for Health and Human Services, and then farther down, Administration for Children and Families, this is the point of contact here, and she falls under a lot of them. So National Institute of Health, Food and Drug Administration. I will tell you, I've had to work with her on a contracting issue, and she was very responsive. But you also need to understand that there's just a few of them and a lot of interest and questions that come through. So the more specific you are about what you need in terms of questions, guidance, just next steps, make it easier for them to be able to respond to you because they, like I said, they do get a lot of inquiries. And so when you see the staff list, this is for the entire agency of Health and Human Services. So that's a lot. So be strategic about when you reach out to them. And often you can meet with your PTAC counselor first to let them know what you're intending to do in terms of reaching out, and then they can provide you guidance. They can review your capability statement. Another thing is your website. Make sure your website is up to date because they will want to research you. They do a lot of times. So make sure your website, we just did a review, recently there was a firm that wanted to reach out to small business programs. They had CCR and ORCA listed on their website. So you need to make sure your website's updated to what is current. If you have an outdated website, it shows how much attention to detail are you really putting into this, and how much attention to detail will you give to federal requirements. So your small business points of contact are found here. And then the other thing I wanted to kind of highlight are procurement forecasts. Procurement forecasts are found on both civilian and military sites, and they will tell you what the government is going to buy and when they're going to buy it. So this is part of your capture management. If you just go into federal government like I want to, most likely the first solicitation you see on SAM.gov, if you're new to government contracting, 90% of the time you'll be too late to go after that particular opportunity because opportunities, as Brad was mentioning, you know, they opportunities have a cycle and they take a really long time to plan, and they take a long time to execute. So if you're seeing a solicitation, if you go on to SAM.gov right now, you say, hey, this is perfect for me, it's due tomorrow, it's probably not the perfect solicitation for you. You might need to go after it the next time, like he mentioned, like option years. Sometimes, you know, federal requirements have 3 to 5 years to them. So part of your research when you're first getting started is finding out what are the buying cycles for this work, and how can I prepare my business to go after it the next time. So procurement forecasts can help you find what is coming in the future. And by law, federal agencies have to post upcoming or what they're intending to buy in the future. So for Health and Human Services, you can search by NAICS code. You can search by UEI. What that will do was show, okay, who of your competitors currently hold this contract, which is great information. So because sometimes your competitors can become teaming partners, especially on some of these huge contracts that are currently out there. So find out who who your potential competition, but also who your potential teaming partner is. And when I talk about teaming partner, SBA has the mentor protege program. Shonda and I both do trainings on that. What is that? You know, how can you get into an SBA approved mentor protege program agreement? So that's not for today, but the fact that you are participating in this training today tells me that you can also get signed up so that you're seeing future trainings as well. So if I just wanted to search by a NAICS code, this one is a computer. It's a popular NAICS code in the state of Ohio. So you will start seeing, for example, a listing of small businesses here under, and actually I don't want the small business directory. See, here we go, HHS opportunity. I went to the wrong one. Like, why am I seeing all these businesses listed here? So if you go to 541-511, if you look here, period of performance. So some of these are already concluded, but you can click on, I looked yesterday, this one's going to be up in 2023. So, and it gives you the contract range. So it's between 750 and 700,000. So is this something that your business could potentially work on, or, you know, if you wanted to get more information, instead of like diving into the actual contracting officer, like in this case, well, we know that it's the Food and Drug Administration that is administering this particular work. That's when you can go back to that OSDBU point of contact and perhaps contact that person first and say, hey, I'm interested in this contract that is going to be, looks like it's up for renewal in March of 2023. Is there any information that you can give me about this? So like I said, just being careful on, you know, how at the end, what you're asking them. When you're careful on what you're asking them, you're going to be more likely to receive feedback. Okay, and that's really what I have for my demonstration. When will we offer the class on mentoring? That is a very good question, Danette.
Jill,
Yes,
I was going to
Shonda.
post in there the one we did in July for the matchmaker, the training on the SBA Mentor Protege program, and then also the panel discussion. I'll post the link and they can access the recording.
Oh my gosh, that is brilliant. Yes, because we do a lot of these trainings and they're recorded. So, and those recordings, Shonda's going to send that to you. A lot of the recordings are available on the Ohio University PTAC website as well. And Shonda, actually, that concludes my demonstration of the Health and Human Services website.
Okay.
So would you like to close us out?
Yes, and let me handle this.
And I will mute myself.
In July.
Thank you so much.
Visit. If you visit.
Oh, you're still finding it? Okay.
No, I'm just typing and then I'm going to post the link. So I turned on my, it's taking me there. I didn't want to do that.
Let me stop sharing here. There you go.
Okay, and it looks like, I don't know if my camera is coming on.
It is, I can see you.
Oh, you can't. I can't see myself, so.
And I can see your amazing bookshelf in the background.
Website. Trying to cut and paste. And there it is. It did the whole thing. All right, there we go.
Very good. Thank you.
So great job, Jill. This has really been a really great session today, and just wanted to just kind of echo really everything with Brad, Phil, Sharon, and the things that Jill has shared. Regardless of kind of where you're at, if you're just getting started, your government contracting journey, or if you've been at this for a while, we're here to assist. There's a network of resources and resource partners to assist you along the way at every step of your journey. So this isn't the website. Okay. Can you see the website? Actually, the agency that I'm going to show is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And actually, I just want to go back out. So actually, let's just go to Google. And if you just want to do Ohio, the Army Corps of Engineers, again, Office of Small Business Programs, you can just Google that. And then if you Google that, it'll take you to the website here. It says Small Business, Headquarters for U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And if you click on that, I really believe the layout that they have is just a great kind of customer-centric, kind of user-friendly for you as a small business. And Jill and I decided to do these presentations. As she mentioned, we did, in addition to Phil and Brad, we did make an invitation for some other representatives with actual agencies to join us today, but they weren't available. So hopefully sometime maybe next year in 2023, we will have another session, another training that we will have some representatives from actual agencies that they can share how to do business with that agency. So in lieu of that, Jill and I decided to do the live demos so that you get a feel for what you need to do as far as doing research on their website. So if you search Office of Small Business Programs, again, this is Army Corps of Engineers. So I really like kind of the layout. And again, it's just super easy. If you look, they kind of have things categorized in squares. So just how to do business with the Army Corps, and then they're broken up by districts and what they call centers. And this is everything with the exception of IT, all of their IT, information technology, their computer related projects and contracts they have is a little bit different. So there is a bucket for that. But if you just click on how to do business with, I'll just quickly go over a couple things. It just kind of helps you navigate how to do business with the agency. And they provide kind of a, as they say, a roadmap to success. So again, they give you some pit stops along the way, just some sections that you want to stop on. Small business basics. I'm not going to click on all of these, but of course, as you've heard today, you want to do business with a federal agency, especially as a prime, you do need to be registered in SAM, but I will click on this. But it just kind of goes over, some of this is a little outdated. It still references the DUNS number, which was prior to the UEI, Unique Entity Identifier. But still, you do need to register in SAM. So it just goes over the basics. Again, you can, if you haven't gotten registered in SAM, or if you're just getting started, again, you definitely still want to work with your PTACs and they can help you with the basics. So again, just some steps that they give you. Small business basics. Again, if you're IT, there's another website that you need to go to, and we'll click on that. But they do give also, I think this is important, as a contractor, they do want you to know the top 5 NAICS codes, the industries that they purchase the most from, that they procure from. So if you click on that, it actually gives you a list. I won't necessarily, I could open it, but it's actually an Excel spreadsheet that lists, hang on, it's still downloading. But the Excel spreadsheet, just kind of like what Jill showed, it will outline those top NAICS codes. And I think it's there, it's opening. So if you want to see, okay, what is the agency? Because that is important. You do want to find out if the agency is buying what you're selling. You don't want to spend a lot of time if there aren't any NAICS codes, the NAICS codes that your company has, and if that agency isn't purchasing those NAICS codes. All right. So let me know. Can you see this list?
Yes, it's under,
Okay.
you got instructions first.
Okay. So if you click on it, it will give you, we talked about the DODAX, which identify the specific district and the location and what they purchase, and then it gives you a website. So you can go on there, and then the district, it lists the district center, and then if you can see the NAICS code and then the NAICS code description. So there is a full list, and then the tabs at the bottom, the district's top NAICS codes. So you can find, you know, engineering services. Of course, it's the Army Corps of Engineers. So a lot of engineering projects, construction projects. It's not just limited to those, but that definitely is the majority kind of what they offer. Let's go back. Okay, so you can click
There's a
on,
question.
okay.
Can you add additional NAICS codes to your profile after you get certified?
Great question. Absolutely. You can always add or even take NAICS codes out of your profile in SAM. So you would have to go back into SAM to do that and go through the registration process. And if you have some difficulty doing that, you can always reach out to your PTAC counselor to do that. And that is, I'm really glad that you asked that, because sometimes there are projects, you may have 2, 3, 4 NAICS in your profile, but there may be an upcoming project that you can definitely do the work, but the NAICS code is not listed in your profile. So you definitely do want to make sure that you do add those additional NAICS codes, and you can do those at any time. At any time. All right. So in addition to the top procuring NAICS codes that agency buys from, even as Jill mentioned, you can review the forecast. If you click on here, and I do believe I may have it already open. So if you click on that, I already have it open. It gives a forecast for each of the different divisions. And then that forecast, again, is just a heads up on, okay, this is what the agency, that division is anticipating on buying. And it gives you a project description, then also the anticipated dollar value, the period of performance, if there is one, the NAICS code, how they're looking to do it, if it's going to be full and open competition, if there's a specific set aside for that. You notice with 8A sole source, 8A competitive, service disabled, to be determined. And then also, when are they anticipating on purchasing that? What fiscal year, and sometimes what quarter? And then you see, this is even more important. I need to shift is the small business office and the point of contact. That is really important because you can always email whatever contact is given. Sometimes email is given, sometimes a phone number. So as Jill mentioned, if you do have your capability statement, you can email about this specific opportunity. You can name it by name, and you can see if you can get any information on it. I would also like to add, in addition to doing this, you may go back and look at the agency's forecast for the previous year to see if this is something reoccurring that they do on a regular basis. And maybe you're able to work with your PTAC counselor to get some previous history on this, maybe who the former performer was, if a small business actually won the contract, and do some research to get some background information on that particular project. Again, if it was listed in their former forecast.
We got a couple of other really good questions.
Okay.
Does the government ever reach out directly to award to small business based on their needs?
Do they ever reach out directly to a small business?
Yes.
Yes, they can. They absolutely can. That is really why we really encourage you that you want to keep your profile updated. They do searches on sam.gov. They also do searches on the SBA's Dynamic Small Business Search. So having your updated NAICS codes, having your updated on the SBA's Dynamic Small Business Search, the DSBS, you can put in there a profile for your business. You can put in there your core competencies. You can put in there any type of certifications you may have outside of non-federal. So sometimes I work directly with 8A firms, myself and Jill, and agencies may be looking for a small business that has a specific certification. It may be an industry certification that only a few companies in the country may have. And so having that information in your profile definitely is important, and those agencies can reach out directly to you. Yes, great question.
And I would say there's also like a dollar threshold. So if it's below, if it's 10,000 or above, it has to show up in sam.gov.
Yes.
If it's below 10,000, then contracting officials, well, government officials can use purchase cards. Most of the time it'll go out for bid, but there are times when they will reach out to you directly, but it's not very often. Is there a place where we can learn the basics on preparing a capability statement? PTAC.
Yes, I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
Absolutely. The PTAC does trainings every year. I believe if you go to the link that Sharon provided to the recordings that are on their website, I'm sure that there are some trainings on there about preparing a capability statement. And I'm sure they'll do more throughout the year. Every year, they typically have several trainings on how to prepare a capability statement. And you can also, in addition to the training, you can work with your PTAC counselor directly for input and guidance on putting your document together and even advice on your document. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to quickly go through these. I'm not going to click on these, but again, these are the pit stops on this. Army Corps of Engineers, they really encourage you to do research on the districts to see what they're purchasing, what are their top NAICS codes that they purchase. Again, of course, setting up searches in sam.gov with the specific districts or centers. And again, they mentioned the DODAX so that you can find out what that specific organization is buying, and you can click there to find out. And then also preparing marketing basics and best practices. So you definitely want to click on that. I believe they provide a sheet, a PDF of marketing basics and best practices. For the sake of time, I'm not clicking there. And then upcoming trainings and conferences and outreach events. Definitely you want to click on that to find out. One of the reasons why I chose the Army Corps, this was one of the agencies that I had picked, but it just so happens that we got information actually today. They're hosting a industry day upcoming on Thursday, December 1st in the Cincinnati, it's the Great Lakes Ohio River Division for Army Corps of Engineers, and it's going to be in Cincinnati at the Marriott River Center, which is actually in Covington, Kentucky, right over the river. So they're having an industry day that's coming up. So that may be something that you're interested in. You definitely want to check out. If you're not ready for a prime contract to do business directly with an agency, maybe you can be a subcontractor to a prime. You can click on here for subcontracting opportunities. So, and also, if you want to get registered in their database for upcoming events, any information, you definitely want to click on here to get registered in their database. And also they have some specifics. If you want to do business with any Department of Defense agency, specifically with the Army, you can click on here. And then also looking at some of the Army Corps' contracting websites, you can just click on here. Essentially, it's really easy. I'll just kind of show you. They have business basics, doing business with the Army Corps of Engineers. So you can click on here and it'll walk you step by step and give you just tips and tools that you need. And then of course you saw the links. You can click here for upcoming contracting opportunities. And then again, how will you find this opportunity? And it's really simple. And then they kind of break it up into kind of two divisions, the enterprise forecast of opportunities and then military construction opportunities. You can click on there and again, it will take you to, I believe, an Excel spreadsheet where it will list the projects and it will list them by NAICS codes. And again, when they are anticipating that that project will come out, the dollar value. But I just want to quickly kind of go through these boxes. If you are looking for an IT related requirement, you can click on here. And the Army Corps does have all of their IT projects go through something called CHESS, and that stands for, I have to shift this, the Army Corps Computer Hardware Enterprise Software and Solutions Program. So CHESS, if you want to look for IT procurements, you can click on here to find those. And again, also just like the military construction projects, they also identify the top NAICS for the different districts so that you can do research on that. All right, in addition to IT, subcontracting opportunities, you can click on this box, upcoming training conferences and outreach events, small business basics for new federal government contractors. So again, this is for anyone that wants to do business with the government. But if specifically, if you are new, you're just getting started, you've never done business with the government, definitely work with your PTAC, but then you can also click on here and it'll walk you through step by step again. You definitely want to get registered in SAM, working on your capability statements. But I would also recommend, I do believe when you click here, it does reference the PTAC at the bottom. So it does give you a link to find your PTAC. And then if you want to join their database, click on here, you can get signed up for their database. And then they also give you marketing tips and tools, best practices on engaging and doing business with not just the Army Corps, but a specific division. So you definitely want to find out what's the right fit for you. And so I think it is really super easy how they have it just laid out once you go to their Office of Small Business Programs page and the just different squares. And then it has just a high level of what you can anticipate and what you can find. If you specifically want to look for dredging projects, if you're engineering construction, you can click on here and it takes you to a dredging corner, which has just specific information on dredging contracting opportunities. I know I have a couple 8A firms that have that capability. It's not going there now, but it did before. So that is another just easy way for you to find opportunities with the Army Corps of Engineers. There it is. So if you go here, if you're looking for dredging resources, it gives like a 5-year forecast of opportunities, funding information, and you can just click on here, updating, contacting, upcoming dredging, contracting opportunities, just a whole host of excellent information that you can access specifically about dredging. So with that said, again, the Army Corps of Engineers is having, and hopefully we will have an opportunity to participate in this event, either having a presence there, having a table, but that is upcoming on December 1st in the Cincinnati area. There's a Marriott River Center. So if the Army Corps is one of the agencies that you have capabilities in doing business with, you definitely want to check them out. And as I said, these are just 2 agencies that Jill and I just wanted to do demos on, but in the near future, we will have representatives from some other agencies that are resource partners that can provide more information on how to do business with their agency. And then also Jill mentioned, we do have our annual Ohio Business Matchmaker, where we have multiple, not just federal agencies, but state, city, county agencies that come together under one roof and give you an opportunity to interact with them and find out if there are any opportunities for your specific company. So in a nutshell, that I'm going to stop sharing and see, is there a place? I think we already answered that question. I know we are about 4 minutes over. Again, we just definitely want to thank all of our presenters today. Brad from the Ohio National Guard, Phil McLean, our SBA PCR, Sharon Hopkins with our PTAC and our PTAC team. Again, we are a network of resources and resource partners to help you as a small business to navigate on any part of your journey with government contracting, whether you're just starting, if you've been doing this for a couple years, or if you're a seasoned professional and a seasoned contractor and doing business, or if you're one of our 8A firms. You see a couple of those on here. If you're a small business, a service disabled, we're really here to help you and assist you any way that we can. And we really do have some wonderful resources, as you can see today, and just the wealth of information that they provided. So someone said great presentations, awesome presenters. We will have, I think next month, we are looking to do our holiday networking event in December. We did this for about 5, 6, 7 years prior to COVID, of course, face-to-face. It was a wonderful event where you get a chance to network with resource partners, federal, state, county, city, and then other small businesses. And so now that we are out and about and in public, we definitely want to do something again with networking. So we should be finalizing the date for that in mid-December. So we're looking to do that in Columbus. So hopefully you can join us, face-to-face networking event, great time to do business-to-business networking, and then also connect with some of the resources that we're talking about today. So hopefully Phil may be able to join us, and maybe Brad if he's available, and of course other resource partners that we have. Awesome, I'm in Columbus, yes. So with that said, I know we're a little over, and Jill had mentioned that, but definitely we're grateful that you were able to join us today, and hopefully you got some information that can help you along your journey in doing business with the federal government. And we're here to help. And we really do enjoy working with you, and we want to see you succeed. We definitely want to see you succeed. So when will the recording be sent via email? But typically what happens is it takes about a week to finalize the recording, and then Sharon will upload the recording and also post both the presentations also on the website. So if you can give it about a week, and then you can visit the OU PTAC website. I will post that. She may have posted that again. I'll post the link in the chat. And not only can you access today's webinar and today's presentations, but all of the presentations we've done, I think for the past 2 years, Sharon, we've done tons of training. Somebody was asking about mentor proteges. We did tons of training for the matchmaker in July. So you really do want to access. I'll post that link in the chat again.
Just an FYI, if we redo a training, then I replace the most current training, but otherwise we add them.
Okay.
That makes sense. And
Okay, but
I just wanted to add, the next matchmaker will be, we're shooting for Small Business Week, which is the first week in May of 2023.
Okay. And we will send out information about our upcoming trainings, because this is a part of our training, government contracting training series that we do with PTAC every year. So to find the recording, visit the PTAC website. And there is the link. So in addition to next month, we're looking to do the holiday networking. And then next year, this is the federal government resources. Next year, we do want to focus on some state resources. So we understand not everybody may be at a place where they want to do business or can do business with the federal government, or maybe they want to do business at a local level, city, state, county. So we're looking to have some state agencies on here and learning how you can do business with them. And then we will also have some federal agencies, some of the federal agencies that weren't available. We'll bring those back, but we do plan out the entire year where we have something every single month that we focus on relating to contracting. If it's not a subject matter expert, we'll have sometimes panel discussions. So just stay tuned. We'll have a whole training series for you every single month. And sometimes we do more than one a month. So, okay, with that said, Sam said, great training. All right, wonderful. So thank you so much for your time. Again, thank you, Brad. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Jill. And thank you for your time. Can Cincinnati be selected as a site for training? Gary, great question. Prior to COVID, we did used to actually switch as far as we would have trainings in Cincinnati, Dayton, and Columbus. Now that we're just kind of coming out of COVID, we'll see how to navigate that and to see what makes sense, but that definitely could be something that we'll look at doing and we'll let you know. But the